Welcome back to the OKC Foodcast, your guide to the food in Oklahoma. I'm joined by my host, Christina, and hopefully you remember me, Nabil. And we are joined with two special guests, Silvana and Zack from Sedalia's. We'll talk about the restaurant, how it started, and some distinctive things that you may find there. So, without further ado, let's jump right into the conversation.
Sorry, I came back and I just kind of never left. I came once and that's what happens, you know? Zack's like, no, that's not happening.
I think we got really lucky because I think we met the right people. Otherwise, I don't think I would want to be here either. Because I met my husband here. He's not from Oklahoma either. He's from Connecticut and Boston area. And so there's a whole other story there too. And he does not want to move. He's like, Oklahoma's home. I'm like, feel that. No.
Yeah.
Opportunities are endless here.
They
I
are.
feel like.
That they are.
They really are.
And you meet some really good people here.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe this is because that's the only place I've lived, but you meet some really good people here.
I know.
I get that. I do genuinely believe you do meet really good people here.
Yeah.
I mean, even in the time that we've been here, industry-wise, with friends, bar owners, restaurant owners, or just regulars that have been very welcoming, invited us into their homes, and just wanted to share a little bit of what they have because they're so happy that we've opened up Sedalia's. And one of the things that a lot of people constantly tell us is, we're excited you guys are here, that you guys have brought something so different to the metro area. And so I think that's also being nice because we came here with zero friends. I mean, his friends are all grown and they've already gone through life. Their kids are older. We are kind of like the parents that bring our little 21-month-old, like our toddler, and their kids are 17, 16. Yeah. Some of them are through their second divorce, and we're new to this, all scared, boots shaking. But it's been great being able to have a different variety of friends. I think it's been kind of like you reliving a new chapter in your Oklahoma life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that. I feel more of an outsider than I think Silvana probably feels, because I really didn't try very hard to keep in touch with a lot of people. I didn't try very hard to keep up with what's going on here on a day-to-day basis or on a political basis. I left for all the reasons you can imagine why somebody would want to leave at 21 years old. Yeah. And so it's probably been a much harder adjustment for me just internally than I think it was for Silvana, because I don't know, I'm a very kinetic person, and so busyness is something that I need in my blood, and so slowing down is extremely hard for me. And it's just always been that way. That's why I adapted so well to large cities, just because it's more of the energy, and this place unfortunately doesn't provide that in a lot of different ways. But I am getting older, so it is nice to slow down and try to start thinking about only 10 minutes to get to work as opposed to an hour and a half of traffic, that sort of thing. So there's the ups and the downs, but for me, I think that the family dynamic, my parents are getting older, and you see them once a year. Sometimes you see them once every 2 years, and so I think it got to a point to where I was thinking, am I only going to see my parents 20 more times? Am I going to see them 15 more times? How many times am I actually going to see them? And I think that honestly was a big momentum to agree to what we're doing, and that was it. But the intention was always to come to open a business. It wasn't, we kind of got sucked into jobs because, it was pandemic and nobody knew what the hell anything was going on. We didn't know how long it was going to last. I think once we landed here and, we reopened so quickly here in Oklahoma, and we weren't really paying attention to a lot of the hyperbole as much as we would have been on the coasts. It was easier for us to kind of get our bearings a little bit, but because the industry, even in a smaller market like this, had still been decimated, and the workforce dropped by 25%, and I think only 5% of that 25%'s come back to that workforce. So it's a lot of new people in the industry. It took us a couple of years to really figure out where we wanted to land, and then we ended up at my family's always owned a playground equipment business down on 10th Street since 1947. And we just kind of had, there's a shack that, my step siblings were using as a storage unit, and my brother had stuff in there, I had stuff in there, and my granddad had stored all of their old receipts from like the 1940s, the 1950s, the 1960s. I mean, there was a giant raccoon living inside there. There was
The resident raccoon.
and
I know we have to evict him.
yeah,
Poor guy.
we kind of. I think.
water?
Yeah, I think my dad thought we were joking whenever we said, "Hey, how about we do something here?" And then at that point, we kind of were like, "Why don't we just do like a, kind of like almost like a rotisserie chicken place, like something that can be a walk-up counter, like just something that we can have, whether or not this is going to be, something cool. It's ours, and we do something. And it gets us started in some sort of way, and we kind of designed the place with that intention, and we went into the whole process with that intention. And then about halfway through, when it was too late to switch the construction and all that, we kind of changed our minds of what we wanted to do. We said, screw it, let's do an oyster bar. And I don't really know where that came. I don't know why we thought, let's do oysters. I don't remember that conversation. I just know one day it was like, that's what we're doing.
I think we had been talking for the longest time about the things that we missed from LA and New York as far as restaurants here in Oklahoma City. And I thought, well, you don't see a lot of oyster bar here. We saw Drake, which is closed because of the pandemic, and then Pearls. And, I just felt like there wasn't a lot of variety. And for a city like Oklahoma that is landlocked, a lot of people just kind of give it a really bad rep because they're like, where are you getting your oysters from? And so we had been thinking about it for a long time. And finally, I think we were just like, well, could we bring oysters in that are fresh from the coast? And he said, that's what I used to do in LA at my last restaurant. And so I thought, well, could this work? Would they want to ship to Oklahoma City? And then he said, probably if we buy a whole bunch bulk, yeah. And so we went ahead with the idea, and it just kind of happened that way. I thought we'll have some oysters on the menu. We'll have a smaller menu that was a little bit more of like small bites tapas style. At that point, also one thing that we had been talking about is opening up a bottle shop with wines, because that's one of the things that we both love as well. Zach's knowledge of wine is a little bit more like impassioned than mine is. I love drinking wine, but he's really nerdy about it. And we looked into getting a bottle shop, and then we thought, well, we still want to do food because you're a chef, he's a chef. And so we were like, why don't we just do oysters and then natural wines and just make this little spot a place where him and I would want to go and eat at if we were in a small neighborhood and walk to and maybe get a glass of wine, a couple oysters, try a couple different dishes, and then let it be that, enjoy each other's company. That was another thing that I noticed. I worked at Whiskey Cake for a while, and I worked at a lot of restaurants, and all of them had TVs at the bars, and I just thought that's so interesting. A lot of people provide that like distraction for when you're at a bar rather than
The people around you.
like shining the focus on like the person that you're with or the people that you're with, and being able to really catch up and see where they are in life, and then just enjoy what's in front of you rather than like, all right, let's get our bill, let's go, who won the game and all that. And I was like, well, it's like, it was, for me, it was a shock, and I thought it just reminded me like everything was like sports bars. Not saying that I don't love sports bars, but I was like, it'd be nice to have a restaurant that doesn't have that. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because food has that power of like bringing people together and starting conversations, right?
Like, it does. The conviviality of it all is just like so whimsical, but it's in the moment, and if you miss it because you're concerned about the news or you're trying to keep up tabs on things, like your mind never shuts off to that, and it never allows you to enjoy food as a culture, as what really moves people and makes them excited about things.
Yeah. Well, and nobody's traveled to a city because it doesn't have good food. We choose where we go on vacation based off of food.
Yeah. The timelines are made based on food.
100%. I mean, there's
where am I going?
Yeah.
What am I
there's
doing?
your random trips to, Cabo or something like that that's kind of landlocked. But there's still, you think of Cabo and you're like, I'm still going to be able to get like really authentic Mexican food, at least from the Baja side of things. But, so it's always on your mind. So it's very interesting to be in a position here where food is fuel more than it is anything else. And I think it has to do more with the, just the politics of everything in Oklahoma in general, that the word culture and things like that is perceived many ways that it's actually not, and that it shouldn't be. And I think people are very afraid to stand out above the crowd. And I think that just has to do a lot with, just how the state's always been in general. And it's not a bad thing per se whatsoever, but there is still, as for every, 5 people that want things to stay the status quo and want things to stay the way, steak and potatoes, the way they like it, there's 3 people that want change, that want to see something else in. And then, the city itself needs to just, and the state in general, we need to grow up as far as where our feelings are. We get upset every time a giant superstar comes to play basketball here, and then they leave. But they leave because there's nothing that we provide for them to stay. We have industries that want to come here, and they want to bring their headquarters here because we do provide a lot of incentive for that. And they don't subject their corporate heads to that type of thing because there's nothing to provide them here.
I mean, I'm just thinking education-wise. Why would huge CEOs and want to build a headquarters here, or like a little satellite
1,000%.
headquarters here, when we have one of the worst public education systems in the country?
Yeah, and then it's not getting better by any means. But at the same time, I think that if you start with food, let's just to bring it all kind of back, if you start with food, you can start building a place for people to congregate, a place for people to be excited about. I mean, just that, I romanticize it a little bit, but it is true that, conversation around food, a lot of things can happen and a lot of things can build from there. And then, hopefully from there you have things that build the idea of better education, of better sense of community, of better neighborhoods and things like that.
Yeah.
So.
I think it all comes down to feeling or finding that sense of community. Because for me, and I totally feel that romanticization. I don't know if that's a word. But and my brother and I, and I'm sure you feel the same. I'm sure you feel the same way too, Silvana. Like back home, food is so embedded in our culture, and it's almost on a schedule because you have things you do during the day that you cannot get at nighttime, And I talked to Nabil about this nocturnal cuisine, different than diurnal cuisine. And it all kind of is woven into what your lifestyle is, what you do, and the people that you see. I feel like one of the first times that I ever felt like a sense of community here, because Oklahoma's so big and you have to it's hard to form relationships with people that you're not in close, intimate relationships with, like family or close friends. I went to Focaccia a couple of weeks ago, and the owner of Focaccia looks at me and he's like, "You want because I've been doing work in that area, so I've been going at least 2-3 times a week, and I've been going there for years. But I think he finally recognized what I want. He's like, "I already got your order, girl." I'm like, "Are you serious?" He's like, "Yes." And then we were just talking, and I asked him how your son's doing, because I remember he's got 2 kids, and I'm like, "Who's gonna take over your restaurant?" And he's like, "I don't know, but I'm just getting ready to retire." I'm like, no, please don't close the restaurant. So it's just something that I never thought I would have. It just hadn't happened yet, You don't frequent the same places because I live in a suburb out in Edmond, and there's no bodegas, there's no little kioscos like you see in Bolivia, or little places that you frequent because you have to go pick up bread every morning for your parents, or you have to go pick up the milk, or the evenings, or just walk to the local bar where, so I'm sensing that that's hopefully going to get better because of people like you guys that are coming in or coming back or finding opportunity in this state.
I mean, from what I've seen, I feel like it's been getting better, and it will keep getting better as the population kind of becomes more dense in areas, right? Because that's really what you need for small little places and neighborhoods and things like that. But becoming a regular, that's an achievement right there. That's a gold star.
That is true. The moment it happens and you're like, I have no idea this person knows who I am.
Yeah, but I don't have to order. I'm like, this is awesome.
The population density is definitely, it's coming. I mean, we're growing at a very fast clip right now, as far as cities grow. And I don't know if I see that turning around. Just based off of environmental reasons and just where people, they do want to, now that we can work at home more often, and that's okay. People are choosing to slow down more than be a part of a rat race for the most part.
Yeah.
So, that would definitely, I think that would definitely help. I don't know. I mean, I'm very optimistic about where over the course of the next decade can bring Oklahoma City, but I don't know if we're ever going to see it as interconnected as these deep-rooted neighborhoods that you would find in, New York or Chicago or, even, even New Orleans or places like that. I think we're a long ways away from that. We have to get sidewalks first, and once we get sidewalks,
Hey, we're getting there.
Yes.
It's
I know.
happening.
That's one thing I told Zach, moving around, because here's the thing, guys. I don't drive. I don't know how to drive. So before moving to Oklahoma City, because I lived in New York for so long, I was always taking the subway, and in LA I had Uber, and my girlfriends and all my friends were like, I don't know, how are you going to do it? There's no real, well, there is like a transit system, but it isn't, like a thing that you want to do every single day. I don't think that even the poor people don't take the transit system. And I was like, well, I don't know. I think it's going to be fine. But I told Zach, I was like, I want to walk to the store like Sprouts and get what I want or the things that I need for dinner. And halfway there isn't sidewalks. There are some on 63rd, but then you go into some neighborhoods that even if you're like taking your stroller with your son, there isn't sidewalks, so you're like on the actual street. And I asked him, I was like, "Why? What's up with the no sidewalk situation? People don't walk here?" He said, "No."
Nope.
So sad. It is like the least pedestrian friendly. I think we just within the last 5 years they've started warming up to making streets more cyclist friendly. And even then, a lot of drivers don't know the etiquette on how to drive safely with like cyclists.
It does.
On
It
the
concerns
streets.
me. We have one of our servers at the restaurant. He rides his bike, and I'm always concerned about him. Because I'm like, are people friendly to you? Like when you're making turns, and I think he's done it for a while. That he knows he can kind of like just test the streets, I guess, and knows when to turn and all this. But
Like who's gonna watch out and who's not?
but not someone like a ding dong like me. Be like, like, here I go, world. Let's hope for the best.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know. That's the evolution of a city, right? It'll happen. Hopefully, it happens fast.
I hope so.
but
I do.
Yeah, it's happening.
I mean, I don't know. Look at us all. You're coming back, but I feel like we're all, migrated here, and
We've been lucky to find a lot of transplants at Sedalia. A lot of people that have spent a lot of time either abroad and come back, or a lot of people that have moved here and are choosing to stay, are very happy that we exist. And again, it's not. I don't think it is not one thing or another, but I think it just gives people a place that is different, that we do not look like or feel like most places in the city by any means whatsoever. I mean, we're much more uncomfortable. It's much more rugged to a lot of degrees. I think people think that we're actually trying to fuck with them while we're there, as if we're legitimately trying to pull a fast one on people, as if we've made people sit on picnic tables and things like that. But
we had a tent in the winter time. Because we
just heaters.
I was there.
That's fun.
Oh my gosh, during the
heater.
winter.
I'm telling you, and I just felt like this is at some point someone's gonna be like, get a real restaurant, like what is this? Do you have a tent around here?
Well, then maybe we just need a reminder in Oklahoma about what food culture is about. I think people forget, they expect the Disney experience, what you're supposed to go to a restaurant and I'm supposed to see shiny glittery lights and fancy this and that, and it all gets lost. The food gets lost in all of that, and then you're just talking about, how grand this is and that, but if you're going to a place, you're going there to experience what the food is and then your company, right? And so when I went to Sedalia's with my two friends, it was my first time during the winter time because she was coming to visit from Atlanta. And we didn't know what to expect. I just knew that it was in her neighborhood around 10th Street. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's closer than what I thought. And and that area has such potential.
It does.
It's so close to the fairgrounds, and it's just a drive. I mean, it's just a few minutes away from the Plaza District, I think, if you just go east. So much uncharted territory, so much potential there to grow a community of restaurants and bars. And so when I saw you guys, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. the first place where maybe other people will also get, encouraged to want to open other businesses in that area.
I hope so. I mean, it surprised me that it hasn't happened, I guess, yet. But that little strip of 10th Street is very kind of like working class, blue collar. There's a lot of, there's a Midwest baking supply across from us, and she's been there forever. And there's a whole bunch of just uninhabited little spaces. And we see little businesses go in, go out, and it just, we're definitely on like a very desolate for restaurants, for a lack of a better word, I think. A lot of people that get there are still very surprised that they're pulling into a playground supply space with the tent in the back, and they're not sure where they're going to check in. There's this like disorienting, kind of like first experience. You walk in and you're like, all right, I landed here, Planet Sedalia. It's like, who do I make contact with? And I'm always like, hi, welcome, Jamaica reservation. And then they starts to ease into their experience. They're like, all right, someone greeted me. It's cool. I'm going to be warm. I'm going to get some food.
Do you want the picnic table or the tent?
Yeah, I know. They're like, they just, like in the wintertime, they were like, we just want to be warm. And so we made sure that we blasted the tent with heaters. It was nice, cozy. And once they started eating and just enjoying each other's company, greeting their friends, they forgot that they were inside a tent. That was my hope. I was like, please don't remember they're inside this tent. And people loved it. People would go in there and have the best time and leave and saying, this was the best experience. This was so good. And it just felt so nice. It was a very humbling moment because there were moments where I looked at them and I was like, I don't know if we're going to be able to do it tonight. The temperatures are dropping, or it's supposed to be windy. The wind was another thing. It would rattle the entire tent. And at times it just felt like we were on a game show called Can They Make It tonight? Yes. And then it would throw us like and we were the contestants every night trying to like survive it, and now that we made it and we have a little bit of a space that's more enclosed and we're gearing up for the summer season, I'm just going in, remember when something doesn't go right, it was worse. So just be grateful for where we are and what we have that, because it was fun. It was it was good. I'm glad that we went through it and we were able to go alone with like basically just him and I figuring things out as we went along. I mean, we didn't have a lot of money opening up the restaurant. All the money that we had, we just kind of saved up to go to state sales and get anything that we needed for, the dining room. We are very fortunate to have the best staff around, I think, and we are making sure that we are taking care of them, paying them a higher hourly than everybody would, allowing them to keep their tips. I come from a front of the house background, so I wanted to make sure that it was fair for them. We're going to work hard, and you're going to be rewarded for it. And same for the cooks. Our cooks are happy. They are encouraged. It's a very small team. I think it's been an exciting year. It's been a learning year, not just for us. I think for them also to see us as their leaders and just kind of see us figuring things out. It kind of feels like watching mom and dad. What's going to happen tonight? Like, how are they going to fix this one? But
so.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, talking about mom and dad, let's do a quick background. Who you are, because we haven't officially introduced you yet.
No, we just kind
We're just kind of
We kind of just ran into it, which is great.
Yeah,
so.
people will figure it out.
they were like, oh, it's them. It's those two a-holes over there. I know them. No. I guess, do you want to start?
You go right ahead.
All right. My name is Silvana. And I am one of the owners at Sedalia, Oyster and Seafood Restaurant. I am married to Zack, sitting across from me. I am Bolivian. A lot of people ask me, where are you from? They read my little bio. I'm Bolivian, guys. I was born and raised there. I moved to the States when I was 13 years old with my family. We migrated to Northern Virginia, and that's how I got my little feet in the industry, working as a little restaurant hostess. I think from there on, my passion just grew stronger and stronger as I learned more about the styles of servicing and the styles of just being around restaurants, and fell in love with it. I moved around a lot. I went to New York. I moved to LA. I met Zack, fell in love. We got married. We have a restaurant. We have a baby.
Is the restaurant the baby?
The restaurant is kind of like the baby. No, actually, she is.
She is, yeah. But
the restaurant is her baby.
We have a living baby also.
Yeah, and we also have a little baby. He's 3 months, so he's great.
We have a boss baby for sure.
I love being in Oklahoma City. As one of the things that I just wanted to bring up is all my friends that have come and visited since I moved here are very surprised with our city, and they're very wowed and love it more because we're here and they can come back and visit. Yeah, I'm very proud of what we have. I am always at the restaurant if you guys want to stop by and say hello. Yeah.
My name is Zach. I am the other owner of Sedalia's Oyster and Seafood. I am fourth generation Oklahoman. I grew up here in the village, actually. I believe sometime around my 22nd birthday, I moved to San Francisco, stayed there for a couple of years, and then moved to Los Angeles and stayed in Los Angeles for about 16 years after that. And then found our way back here. While I was in Los Angeles, I had the opportunity of working for a lot of great people, a lot of different concepts, a lot of eclectic things. When I was 29, I had a friend who became a business partner, and we opened up a small restaurant, very scarcely similar to what we're doing now. We didn't have an air conditioner for a year and a half.
Did you have a tent?
No, we put our restaurant on the corner of Gardner and Santa Monica Boulevard in East West Hollywood, which is not the most, especially in 2010, it was not the place to be. Let's put it that way. And it was hot. It was weird. There was a weird ramp down the entire back end of it, so we could only have X amount of seats because there was a ramp in it. We thought we were going to be a butcher shop, and we quickly became a restaurant. But somehow we got extremely lucky that we had promoted ourselves well enough that like Eater was really excited about our opening, and so they were promoting it. It was all by circumstance. This is all by very weird, just from Chris and I being out and just having business cards early and handing it to people and being like, yeah, we're doing this. Don't worry about it. It's going to be cool.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's going to be cool.
It's going to be being like losers.
Yeah, it's going to be super hip. It's going to be cool. And then somehow we got the LA Times they were doing a brunch issue. So we had been open for about 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, and we were in the LA Times as one of the top 7 places to do brunch. And we had literally had 3 services at that point. But we were a 26-seat restaurant, and we would do about 250 to 300 people every Saturday, every Sunday just for brunch. And we had 4 things on our menu. You know, we had 2 eggs, 2 bacon, 2 sausage. We had the secret, the All-Star, and we had
All-Star for the win.
We had a hash. We did a hash. We did biscuits and gravy, and we had a salmon, like a smoked salmon. And I mean, you know, LA is a lot of different things, but people expect egg white omelets. People expect a lot of different dietary restrictions there, and we just basically told them to go fuck themselves. And we were gonna do the way you worked there also. You know,
I did. I was oh no.
So people were baffled, like, this is not vegan. You mean to say this is not all vegan?
Well, we eventually turned that location into a breakfast location.
They made eating normal food.
That's when I left.
Like cool again. People will come in there and be like, "Oh, but here I don't usually eat, you know, like."
I don't eat pork. I don't eat pork. I don't eat pork at all.
When I'm
but
here,
I'll do it here.
I load it up with butter. You know.
Only here though.
Only here though.
It's a cheap restaurant.
Oh, it was interesting, but we got a following, and then, you know, I mean, it was fun. I mean, we ended up in the Wall Street Journal. We ended up in the New York Times. We ended up in a lot of different publications, and it was a good ride for a long time. And then, you know, things broke up a little bit, and my partner and I started seeing different we weren't seeing eye to eye, really, and it was time for me to move on. I think my time had expired. I was burnt at both ends for about 3 solid years, and I just had to move on. And so from there, I kind of took a corporate job with a friend of mine that has restaurants in and around the Phoenix area and the LA area. And we did that for about 3 years, and that's when the pandemic hit. And at that point, though, we had, you know, Silvana and I started dating, and she had basically kind of noticed that I was maybe lost a little bit in my corporate job, and just knew that I needed someplace so that I could be creative again and just kind of do things. But, my creativity is very different than a lot of different chefs. I don't write a lot of things down. I don't have recipes per se. And I don't necessarily know if that's good or bad. I don't pat myself on the back for it, because sometimes I beat myself up because I don't know if I'm teaching anybody anything other than just how to survive. But I'm a big music person, and I look at food the same way I look at music. And there's a lot of wonderfully classically trained chefs that are probably much more qualified to be chefs than I am. But they're classically trained, meaning that they have to have sheet music in front of them every time they do something. And I'm much more of a jazz person, where I've done this job long enough to where I know my rudiments, but I don't necessarily. I like to improvise, and I like to change things, and I don't like recipes to be the same every single day, and I don't like food to taste the same every single day. I like things to evolve. I like to be able to say, yeah, that's the recipe for that, but this ingredient is more, in season right now, so why don't we use that as opposed to this? If you have a better onion in season, let's use better onions than use the same old onion. And so that's a small example, but you just improvise in and out of what's going to taste good, and you just make sure that your flavors taste good and that your combinations can work. And so I change things very rapidly and a lot. But I do things because more than anything, I'm cooking for myself than I think I'm really cooking for anybody else. And I don't necessarily know if that's a good business model per se, but I'm also not concerned about it, because to me it's more the interactivity of what's going on. I mean, I think the industry itself there's a place for corporate style restaurants and hospitality driven restaurants and things that are family oriented, and then there needs to be a place also where there's an eclectic energy, and people can kind of not know what to expect, and they can let their guard down, and they can hopefully have something they've never tried before. But so for me, that's what I come back to. And so doing that here in Oklahoma City has been rewarding, and it's been surprising that we've had as many people resonate with what it is that we're doing. I don't know if I don't necessarily know if anybody truly understands I don't think we know what we're actually doing on a daily basis.
Eclectic. Welcome to Eclectic.
Yeah. Welcome.
It's a fun way to put it.
Be ready to be eclectified.
Yes, I love it.
Welcome to whatever is going on here. But like I said, it's been a lot of fun, and there's a lot of really cool, interesting people that we've been able to meet that we wouldn't necessarily be able to meet. And there's a lot of regulars that we have. You were talking about being a regular, and you felt, oh my God, that feels great. Like the amount of people that we know on a first name basis that we talk to, that we genuinely care about, you don't get that in a lot of places. But that is, somebody told me a very, very long time ago that, a customer goes to the restaurant for the first time for the food, and they come back because of the service. And by the service, that person wasn't saying as in good service and, they full hands in, full hands out type bullshit. They were saying that the service, somebody on that staff knows who they are. Somebody on that staff will say, hey, how's it going? How was your day? And, we try to provide a place where, because again, this is coming from a Hollywood background where we had a very, very, very famous clientele. And, the important part is to give them a space where they don't feel like you're there to bother them about their day, that they're able to get away from their day. And that your job is to provide them a place where they can unwind and that they can relax. Like, our job is not to ask them 1,000 questions about their personal life. It's so that's kind of where we are with us. And Silvana understands that also, and I think that just has because of her background also in LA, but also in New York too. I mean, there's a lot of high profile people that, the hospitality industry it's rewarding to be able to allow people to unwind, and you get to know them on whatever basis you know them on. They may not, you may not be on their short list of people they're going to invite at their next cocktail party, but they know that that there is a connection there. And it's very, I don't know, for me, it's very humbling, and I enjoy that. So it's one of the aspects of hospitality that I like, because even again, as my first job, like, for the most part, in the city was working, directly below here at Bellini's. And I was a busboy at Bellini's
Yeah.
from like 97 until 99.
We've come full circle.
I was a busboy at Bellini's. And the one aspect that I really enjoyed about that job in general, just thinking about it, in hindsight, was nothing about cooking or nothing about serving or nothing about bussing or nothing about making cocktails, but it was just the general, the atmosphere of the restaurant itself. I think that, people that are, you get the whole thing. Yeah, you get disgruntled servers and you get disgruntled workers and you get all these different things, but you also have, fantastic guests. And I think that every server that really, truly works in the industry, by I mean really, truly, like actually has done this and puts their time and energy into it, there is always one table a night that brings them back from a bad night. There's always a group of people that sit down there like, oh my God, because it's a connection. It's an actual social connection. And no, is that going to pay your bills? Absolutely not. But at the same time, working, for lack of a better word, I mean, there's no way I could do what like your husband does. I would jump out this window in a day
Spreadsheets,
or two.
Excel spreadsheets, I can't.
No,
I can't.
and and I think that a lot of people that find themselves in the restaurant industry don't realize that they don't want to do that either, and just enjoying the kinetic energy that you get from being in a restaurant is special.
So you said something interesting about what you noticed about serving people or folks like in Hollywood. People go there, they seek privacy, they seek to kind of unwind by themselves. And I think ironically in places like in the Midwest, like in Oklahoma, because of how this state is constructed, we're almost, without even realizing it, living a lifestyle where we're forced to live in isolation. And if I'm going to meet my friend Nabil at a restaurant, I'm driving and I'm not interacting with anyone and I'm there for a purpose. It's not, I'm not living like in serendipity or like, I don't know how to say like I'm just not by happen chance meeting with people, interacting with people. I can't afford that. If I'm at home, I'm away from the city by 20 minutes and I have to go somewhere, I have to drive there. So when it's almost like you guys are coming here to alleviate an issue that nobody wants to be, nobody wants to live,
Yeah, for
like
sure.
we're not famous, but yet I feel sometimes a bit isolated and it's difficult to connect. People are living their lives and you have to plan a lot of times to find connection, connect with friends, connect with strangers that you haven't met before. And so when you guys come here and bring this concept where you're just kind of like living and providing food and just being very, what's that word you said? Just
Eclectic.
You're eclectifying us.
I'm gonna get a tattoo.
Word of the day. Right.
And I know I'm not alone feeling this way. I think people are really seeking community and connection, and I hope that you guys stay and are successful, and I hope that more people are inspired by you guys, because we need to be eclectified for sure.
Yeah.
I think it is a time for being, daring and bolder in what we do. And I think, in a way, yes, to be kind of prepared for the different and the unknown, but also just to go back to basics and try to, and my takeaway from this is like, move closer to the people that you're with, your friends. Like when you're going out and you're going out to dinner or getting a drink, be in conversation, enjoy this time that you're spending together, because it's really all we have as humans is like that human interaction. It's what makes us so unique, and it comes so easy to some, it doesn't to some others. So if you want to come to the restaurant also and just be on your own, we won't say anything. we'll let you be you.
Yeah, for sure.
Sometimes you just need time to decompress.
It's true. Even here, even in our city, you need a moment to sit down, put your phone down, put everything down, and just unwind. Like almost like the idea of like taking your shoes off. Like you breathe for a minute. Like it just feels like, now I'm gonna get some food. I'm excited. I was hungry. I'm gonna get a nice little beverage, a drink, and then you go on about your night, because then you go back to your home, which is home problems, or you have to go to work the next day, which is work problems. So really, going out is the only time you make a choice out of your own free will to do that, and with the people that you're choosing to do that with. And I think there's nothing more rewarding than that. It's at the end of the day, it's almost like yourself, like a self reward for something, and that's how I look at it when I go out to eat. I am always excited. I'm like, where should we go? Where haven't we been to? Ooh, who should we go with? You know, or who would be a good person to go with this?
Yes.
Oh no, they won't like that. They're like this. So in my mind, I'm already thinking of my own betterment. Like I'm thinking, I want to have a good time. So I'm gonna make sure that how I bring this group together is gonna allow me to still have that like
Good time.
moment of conviviality, but also good time for me. Yeah,
How can a good time be made better?
that's
Right.
true.
Is there, so we haven't talked much about that pop-up that's coming up. But before we jump into that, I want to ask you, is there a significance behind the name?
To be honest, there is and there isn't. Zach and I were talking about the name Sedalia. So a lot of people come into the restaurant, they're like, are you Sedalia's? And I say, I'm Silvana. And they say, all right, Sedalia. I'm like, all right, great. Now this is going to be my name. It's going to change from Silvana to Sedalia because it's so similar. But Sedalia was Zach's great-great-great-grandmother.
Great, I think.
No, I think it's older than that.
No, I don't think so.
So we had come back to Oklahoma.
The
And
great debate.
The great debate. Let's go to where we know. Let's find out.
She was Roscoe's mom.
Yeah. So his parents took us out to where the family plot is in El Reno, and I
This is when you met my dad, and
I think so. When was the first time?
Because it was Memorial Day 2020, and we had been in isolation because we had traveled across country, and so we stayed in isolation for the 2 weeks that we got here. But then after that, you weren't talking to anybody. We were just wandering around the Walking Dead part of Oklahoma City because nothing was down there. It was crazy.
But we were at El Reno, and then I saw the family plot, and there's the Walters plot, and there's like this person, there's Rex, there's Roscoe, and then I see this name Sedalia just like off to the side, and I asked Zach, I said, is this person part of the plot, this plot, or is it the next plot? It's kind of like in the middle. And Zach was like, and no, your dad said, no, she's one of us. She's your great-great-grandmother. And so we love the name, and when we were thinking about names for the restaurant, we were like, what should we call it? Should we call it like Little Shucks? No, like the Shuck Shack. You start thinking about silly things.
Yeah. You want to get creative with it, right? Yeah.
You're like,
yeah.
I want this to be a cool name. I don't want it to be some lame name that people are like, the Shuck Shack. What a loser, So,
But then there'll be someone that's like, oh, that's fun.
I know. And then we're like, we were thinking of names like Pearls. I was like, Pearls is so good because it is Pearl, right? And then I was like, Drake is kind of like, like English, the Drake, like you're going to get some like English fare or something. And I thought, why don't we do something fun? Like, I don't know. I was like, what is Sedalia's? Sedalia's kind of catchy. Like, let's go to Sedalia's and grab some beer. So let's go get some Oyster Sedalia's. And I don't know. I think I talked Zach into naming the restaurant Sedalia's.
But I don't know. I like it. But
I also love the like feminine, like kind of like mystical force in it. It's like a mom. It's like Sedalia's.
Like, who is Sedalia?
Sedalia's, right?
I know.
And
there's like a mystique behind it. Like, who is Sedalia?
How is Sedalia's? I think the space, that little space, is the little force that is Sedalia. I think is what is really embedded and represented in the restaurant all around. And people from Sedalia, Missouri, have actually contacted us before, wondering if we were from that town, and that's why we named the restaurant Sedalia.
Oh, interesting.
Very interesting. I mean, I usually tell them things like, no, but we could be.
Come check it out.
Check it out. I know.
If you want us to be, come over.
Partnership.
do we need to be?
I don't know, but I still love the name, and I think it's fine when people walk in there and they expect me to be Sedalia, and then I say, sure, I can be Sedalia for tonight. Yeah, but that's really meaning, but also kind of no meaning.
Yeah.
It's a joyful name.
It's
I
a joyful name.
Yeah.
I love it too. People say things like, if you guys have a little daughter, would you name her Sedalia? And I'm like, probably no. Our son's name August. A lot of people think we're going to name our second son September. Yeah.
So when you were starting the Shuck Shack,
Yeah.
probably already had some pre-existing relationships, but how'd you source for the restaurant? But
I mean, that was a lot of it was pre-existing relationships. And then just kind of getting on line and finding out people that were doing direct programs, like direct-to-chef programs. There was a lot of those types of programs in California, but I didn't realize that they were pretty much for people inside of that border in general. A lot of things on the West Coast are as well. West Coast is a lot harder to get product out of than the East Coast. I don't know if it has anything to do with just infrastructure, but I think a lot of it has more to do with the fact that, one thing that we learned by opening an oyster bar is that when the pandemic hit, oyster companies were the first people, and like bivalve people, anybody doing mollusks, anything like that, they cut their traps and their bait automatically. We're talking about billions upon billions of species lost, and oyster is a basically a rock that has, it has it has its animal on the inside. It's a filter, but it takes anywhere between 2 to 6 years to grow. So the second, it would have been the equivalent of everybody that owns, wineries in Napa at the very beginning of the pandemic to just go and light their vineyards on fire and say, we're going to start over. And then, it's going to be another 2-3 years before we have a product. So a lot of people lost a lot of things, and it took a long time for this infrastructure to get built back up. So there's been shortages off and on, anywhere up and down. So us getting product, we just had to be a little bit more creative of where we got it from and who we got it from. But we've been able to find some wonderful companies that were able to weather a larger storm and had a larger, net of people to get product from. Farming oysters is a lot like farming, livestock or vegetables. So there's a lot of farms up and down the coasts of small families that just have X amount of product, and then they go through smaller brokers to get their product out. So that's kind of, we deal with those people more. That makes the product a little bit more expensive, but it's more special, and then that way we can have a menu of oysters that people don't know generally, they don't see, and then we can have customers come in and ask, like, how come you don't have Kumamoto on your menu, or how come you don't have Cushy, or how come you don't have, Fanny Bays or anything like that? And again, there's nothing wrong with those products, but they're something that everybody knows. So so we spent a lot of time, and one of my main brokers in Boston. We had a conversation when I left LA, and he just said, just keep me in mind whenever you land anywhere, because they have the ability to ship from anywhere, and there's not a lot of companies that will ship because it just costs so much money. But there's a lot of smaller companies that just see the value in it, so they do. And then after that, smaller companies have come up, like specialty companies have kind of found us and things like that. And we work with one local company, Fortune here, that comes down to Oklahoma City, but they're getting better, much better for the city in general. There's a lot more accounts taking them, but for a long time it was like they're a Chicago-based company, and it was like, oh, Chicago doesn't want this. Do you want this? And that sort of thing. And I don't want anybody's leftovers. If I ask for a product, I want to be able to get the product that we want to get. Right. And we've pulled the onion back enough now to realize that all the corporate. All the corporate three, the Benny Keiths, the U.S. Foods, the Ciscos of the world, the food that comes into Oklahoma City is dominated by what corporate of those companies say we should have.
Yeah.
So a lot of things get bypassed and they go straight to Dallas, and then we have to order it from Dallas to come back up here. And it has, I know it has to do with they're looking at a metric and saying, well, they never order this, but they never order it because it's never here.
So does that mean, just for like listeners that, or even for myself,
Sure.
my knowledge with how like sourcing and all of this stuff is very limited. So does that just mean that for somebody like yourselves, you guys are opening a restaurant, you guys are here in Oklahoma, you kind of don't have a lot of control over what you can order?
Correct.
They're kind of just telling you like, this is what we have. You don't have a choice.
Yeah, there's a reason why chopped romaine salads are on everybody's menu. And it's not because everybody thought that chopped romaine was just the best vehicle to make a salad out of. It's because that's what's available. And being able to get a better lettuce is very difficult. And these companies will tell them, well, we'll see. But if you're the only one ordering, we can't really, I don't know if we can bring a whole truck in just because you're going to take, because they'll say things like, how many cases do you need a week? Oh, well, we only need like 3 cases a week. Yeah, that's going to be really hard. It's going to be about a 2-week turnaround for that. And how often do you want me to order this?
Horrible.
That's so frustrating.
It's beyond frustrating, because you realize that your diet is being, it's like living in the Matrix. Your diet is being told by some computer somewhere else that and the insulting nature of it also is beyond more than I care to get into on this show. We could have we could go another hour of how I care about
angry
it,
hour with Zach Walter.
We should definitely
after hours.
Taking
Podcast after dark.
our
Taking
little
some
session.
taking some callers, and it's like Benny Keats cussing you out.
I
Tell us
would.
how you feel.
I mean, and you know, there are people that work in those. That work for those companies that will try as hard as they can to get you things, but they can only do it if it makes economic sense for the company. It does cost a lot of money to take a truck somewhere to pick something up to bring it, and they can't just order it one time. It's a reoccurring thing. Like logistics is an extremely difficult business, but the idea that there is not at this point in this development, you know, again, I was, you know, from 2002 until 2020. There has been a lot of changes in Oklahoma City, but humbly, in my humblest opinion, the changes have been more cosmetic than they have been internal.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is, in my I think just has more to do with the amount of time people really want to put into sourcing. And it's extremely difficult. It's frustrating. It's frustrating for businesses to not be able to, well, I can't put this on the menu because I can't guarantee it's going to be here in 2 or 3 weeks. That's extremely difficult. So you're forced to create business models that are never changing, that are extremely corporate by design, that are, to be quite honest, franchise and or fast food by design. And that's what you're forced to do. So everybody's looking at the restaurants from a MBA viewpoint as opposed to a chef and or a sommelier or a mixologist viewpoint. Yeah. They're not looking at it from the people that are actually creating the product. They're looking at it from an MBA. I mean, it's, you know, like the same as, you know, when you have an engineer company that doesn't have any engineers in it, that only has people that think of business because they're outsourcing all of their creative licenses and things like that, and they don't build anything anymore because that's being outsourced. Also, it's the exact same. It's kind of how you end up in this type of desert. So, you know, and I'm speaking broadly. There are definitely patchworks of people doing extremely good work, and there's patchworks of people that are passionate, that are trying as hard as they can. But it's very, 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 very difficult for them to, like, you have to think about it every single day. And like I said, I change my menu so often that I don't care about it, right? Because I'll just, the farmers don't have this or this or that. And I'm also paying an exorbitant amount of money just getting things shipped in, you know, from shipping and things like that. And, you know, but we're doing that because we're really trying to just kind of maybe just prove a point to ourselves that we can sustain a business doing this in this way, and not just like fold all of our cards and say, screw it, it's going to be a chopped romaine salad. That's just what it's going to be.
Is it just to kind of, I'm so sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, just to kind of bring this back to what consumers can do, what part do consumers have to assist and help in this problem is if you go to a restaurant or even if you go to your local grocery store, like I was just thinking and we've talked about this on the pod before, how important it is when as consumers, when we're going to the grocery store and we see a product that we've never seen before, I want to make sure that this grocery store still brings in this product, so I want to buy this all the time. One example is there's a supermarket called La Feria Latina, which is on 63rd, I think, 50th, I don't know, but it's on the west side. And they started bringing in these Peruvian corn. Belmonte, I think, is the manufacturer. I had never seen that before, and so I told all my family members, I told my friends, I'm like, you guys need to really come and buy this all the time, because I don't know if they're going to keep bringing this product if nobody's buying it. Nobody knows about it. All of my Latin friends that are not from South America, south of Mexico, don't know about it. So I'm like, I'm sorry, they do know about it, but people north of Central America and up, not so much. And so I'm like, go get it, go buy it. And so that they can keep bringing it and I can go keep getting it for my ceviche, whatever.
We will go buy it if you tell us where it is. Don't hide it.
So if you are a foodie and you are a consumer and you love going to restaurants, I don't know if this is normal, but I don't know, like ask the server, ask the chef, like what should we order here? Like what ingredients do you want us to try that you haven't used in your dishes before? Because otherwise, if there's no demand from consumers, then really, like, how are restaurant owners and chefs, what are they going to use to justify, like, ordering these products, right?
That's the catch-22.
And so we're living in this matrix where we only think, gosh, I live in Oklahoma. The only thing I can get is romaine lettuce. And the only thing I can get is these oysters from wherever that I don't know. I love oysters. My knowledge is limited, but I know that I love Wellfleets. I went to Boston. I tried the Wellfleets, and I'm obsessed. I'm like, these things are so delicious. And before you guys were in town, and even before the Drake was here, there were a few places that we would go to that were more like, I don't know, they just didn't know where the oysters were from. And so I'm just like, how are you guys going to educate your consumers if you guys don't even know where you guys are getting these? Well, they're not telling their servers where the oysters are from. And so, people don't know, and then they don't know to ask for it. And so I think as consumers, as food lovers, we also play a very important part in the survivability, sustainability of our restaurants. And yeah, so I'm putting it on you guys.
I think it's good. I think like you, Chris, and I mean, when you go to a restaurant, I think if you really wanted to get a one way, it's like asking, where are you guys getting your lettuce from? Or, oh, interesting, I didn't see this before. Who's bringing this to you? In a regular setting, maybe the server won't know right away because they're like, I don't know. Let me find out. They'll go back to the kitchen. They'll ask the chef, and then the chef will have to figure it out. And he'll be like, oh, we don't want to say like a random company. We don't want to make it look like it just came from a box in a freezer somewhere, right? And
the truck.
The truck, right? They don't want to say it came from a truck. People like us as consumers, we want to think that it came from a farm somewhere in Oklahoma. You want to think these tomatoes were grown in someone's little farm that you went and bought them in. And that isn't the reality. And I think that's another choice that you make. Is like you're sitting in and they're like, they're not from here, or they got him this morning. We get him, and then that's when you start thinking, all right, I don't know when this was in the truck. I mean, it's still gonna taste good. It's still food, And that's another conversation. I think it's just the quality of products that are put on the plates, and then we just kind of have to eat them because that's what's available. Zack and I will go to the farmers market here at Scissortail, and the one that's in the old farmers market building, and just kind of see who has the best of the products because we have that privilege. Even I, as a mom, I'm going out shopping places, different stores like Sprouts, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, and I buy things based on like what I can afford. If things are organic, sometimes they're extra expensive. But I still have to make food. I still have to put food on the table. So it is very much kind of like what the system allows me to buy from. But you can still be choosy if you can, if you really wanted to, and if you can afford it. If you can say things like, well, I want a better onion, a better tomato, or say things like, well, I can't eat this if it isn't sourced to my ethical beliefs.
Standards,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Just feel like it is.
And I think that the responsibility of the consumer, in all honesty, I think is to slightly be a bit more contrarian to what they're getting. Not everything local is good, period. Just because you're local or this and that doesn't mean that you're good. And I think that the city itself deserves voices that people can hear via podcasts, via the magazine writing, via newspaper writing, that are actually telling a better picture of what's actually going on, as opposed to just everything's awesome. Oh my God, I went and got another, chicken wing with a blue cheese sauce. It was awesome. They can't all be awesome. But unfortunately, there's, I think that we live sort of in a we can't say anything bad world. And because that doesn't exist where we're from, we have critics, we have people that legitimately will close restaurants down if they're doing a disservice to the public, and that doesn't 100% exist here. And I think when speaking primarily of restaurants, that is what the consumer is missing, is actually people being a little bit more competitive in their own right to make restaurants more competitive. Because that's where you're living and dying. That's where you're breathing. And nobody wants to be responsible for closing down a small business, and we're very pro business. and things like that. But at the same time, you know, some people are opening up businesses using foods that are not expensive and charging a lot more than other people. And again, I have no dog in that fight. I don't overly care. I'm just saying from how do we get away from, you know, this idea that everybody's menus are the exact same, so to speak. I mean, they don't read the same, but they're kind of the exact same proteins, the exact same produce and things like that. How do you get away from that? Is that you have to more fiercely demand it, and it takes people that are willing to print it, that are willing to air it, to do that. And that's what you find. I mean, you find that in every larger market. You know, I mean, there are, you know, we still read, you know, the LA Times and the New York Times so that we can read the critiques. We read the critiques that people give in Washington, D.C., you know, in Chicago, and we read critiques that people give when they travel around the world and stuff like that, because it's good to see what other people are doing. It's also good. I mean, you know, we live in the world of like Instagram now, so we can just look at this food and be like, oh my God, look at it. It's got to be great. And it's actually refreshing sometimes when people say, yeah, it looked good, but it wasn't good.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, because that way you can come back to reality, because everybody thinks that they can be great because we see it on Instagram and we can be great. But, you know, we need voices that are actually saying, let's do a better job at this, and this. Let's go here and go that way. And I think from the consumer voice, it has to be people that have a microphone to be able to say that. And again, it makes people puts them in a very uncomfortable situation, because they have to be critical and they have to be responsible for their critique, and they have to be willing to argue about what it is that they're saying. But I mean, that's like that is the point. I mean.
Yeah.
You know, like Whole Foods should not have a better produce list than what is given to some of the better restaurants in the city. And, you know, that is just, it's a crime. And I know that seems, oh my God, he said crime, but I mean, it is a crime. It's ridiculous. You know, it's like, it's very Mickey Mouse. And that's all I got on that one. I mean, it's just like, period. Like I know people in the restaurant industry right now that are buying food from Whole Foods. They order cases of what they need on a weekly basis because it's easier to get than calling U.S. Foods, Cisco, or Benny Keith.
Wow.
So again, we're just like, I guess I work for Jeff Bezos now. I guess that's what it is.
He got you.
Yeah, I'm gonna be.
He got you.
I'm gonna start selling books at some point.
There you go.
But yeah, I don't know.
Well, I appreciate your honesty.
No, you're
And we
welcome.
have to talk about these things this way anyways. Otherwise, we're going to keep living in this matrix. I like how you said that, because it kind of is that way. And we've only talked about this a few times, but then when we really get into it, it's a little bit daunting. Like,
It is.
kind of
It kind of
scary.
gets scary and ugly, and you're like, I don't know. And
Yeah.
it's a good conversation to have, I think. At least, maybe not every day, but something that is always like at the forefront as a thought. You know, the food industry is so rigged in so many ways. And that's one thing, as someone who isn't coming from like a chef side, from a consumer, marrying into this lifestyle. And opening up a restaurant has really allowed me to open my eyes to a reality that is horrifying, and that is just a nightmare, an ongoing nightmare with the quality of food. I mean, and, you know, just having conversations like being like, well, why isn't it here? He's like, I don't, you know, just like the practicality of things getting to where you need them to be. The wages that are being paid to people who actually farm the food. It's like you open up a can of worms and and you start, and then that's when you're like, what are we doing? And, you know, that's when you're going to have to like stop and reel it back and do the best that you can in your small portion, hoping that it's moving towards a better future for all of us, as far as food goes and food supplies.
Okay, so reeling it back.
Reeling it back.
I have one last burning question about Sedalia's.
Okay.
Well, at least I do. I don't know if Christina has more. I'm sure she does. Is there a item on the menu that has a significance to you, whether it's personal, cultural, historical, whatever that might be?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and say it, Chris. I think you probably already know this, and you too, Victor. being Bolivian, and this was also part of the creating of Sedalia's, we were talking about oysters, and the initial idea of us doing the before the oysters, having like a little rotisserie style takeout window, came from my idea of being in Bolivia and growing up. My mom worked at the market at La Cancha. And so, sometimes I was selling meat as a butcher, and her mom did it and her sisters did it. And so it was like a big family, little puestos, like little spots where you are. And growing up there, sometimes just bored, waiting for her to finish and lock up the shop. We would go out and wait for a bus to go back home. And there's a lineup of stalls with food at the end of the night. And as you're approaching, coming out like what I call like the witch area where the incense is sold, and then you have the juiceries that are at the front, and then you're nearing the street, and you smell the food just wafting your way, and it's like fried chicken or anticuchos, which are like skewers that are being just cooked right there. Very simple, very cheap. They're very delicious. And I just remember thinking, we would look out and we'd see if the bus was coming, and then my mom would be like, do you guys want to get some anticuchos? And I was like, yeah. And so we'd always get a couple anticuchos, even if the bus is coming up, your bus is getting ready, you're like getting your change to the lady, you're like, keep the change, just go catch the bus, have a little snack on the road on the way home. And the smell of the charcoal, the smell of the smoke, and the meat itself just grilling, kissing the fire, those potatoes, the sauces, it was like the best, most like romantic little interaction I've had with food, even as from a young age.
Yeah.
And just appreciating every bite on its own. And I told Zach, if we could even open something like that in Oklahoma City, it doesn't have to be grand. It just has to have that feeling. If we can sell that fire, that feeling, I think it will really gain us a lot of followers, and we can start a little business, even if it is anticuchos outside on 10th Street. I said, I'll come up with my little thing and just kind of sell it out there, no problem. No restaurant, no problem. I got it.
We have a tent.
We have a tent. So I told him, I was like, we have to do the beef heart anticuchos, and he'd never had beef heart before. And I was, thinking, well, you've been a butcher. Have you ever cooked heart in some sort of way?
I had beef heart, just not in the style of anticucho.
And so I made it one day, and during the pandemic. And, we called my mom to ask her how to make the peanut sauce. It's kind of like a drier curry style sauce. It's really nice and smoky. And of course, every parent who isn't from here, I'm sure you guys are too, they're like, well, they don't have this ingredient here, but this is what I use to mask.
You had the Cochabamba La Paz argument too, because Amr would be like, actually, in La Paz, we always got it this way.
Bolivian food is it's very regional too. That is the thing.
Yes.
And so we were able to put it on the menu because we thought about doing skewers, very much like in yakitori fashion. In Japan, I thought, well, it's interesting, again, how we always like to think that I'm from this country and you're from that country, but ultimately we are so much united. Yes.
Yeah.
And I feel like, nothing separates us. Everything about food unites humankind, and so I thought it would be cool. So we went ahead and we tried it a couple times at the house, and then we have this beautiful grill that was made by Grills by Demont, and it's just something that has a compartment for grilling and a compartment for smoking, the way we had done it. And we spent a lot of money on it because we wanted it to be what we wanted it to be. We wanted to recreate that memory, and I think we've done it justice. I still will say, if you want to have the real thing, you have to go to Bolivia. You have to go to Cochabamba. You have to wait up until the end of the night and line up somewhere and then just eat it there and eat it standing, because there's nothing better of like being in that moment and place, waiting for something, and just the smells. It is. It's an experience, and so that is on the menu for me. Is my dearest, I guess, offering to the Oklahoma dining community as my little, taste a little bit of who I am and where my country's from. And I hope you like it, sort of thing, And if you don't, it's okay, I'll eat it. Honestly.
More for me.
More for me.
Yeah.
I've talked to several people that have gone and tried it, and they were pleasantly surprised, because I always like to talk about how in a lot of other countries, we don't just use whatever you buy at the store. Like, we use beef tongue, beef heart, tripe, kidneys sometimes.
Kidneys,
And so when I try to explain what anticuchos is, it's not just something that you order. You will never find it at a restaurant. Maybe at a fancy restaurant, maybe, I don't know. But you always just have to go to the street corner and then get it between 10 and 2 o'clock in the morning. And I don't know. It's just something so special about the flavor, about the marinade,
the
potato, and that peanut sauce. And it goes so well. You eat it. like you said, standing with your hands, licking it off your fingers.
That's
and
exactly, how it was intended to be eaten, I think. It's screaming for just like, someone just eat me right here, right now, I think that we've actually done a couple other riffs on different Bolivian dishes because I'm Bolivian and, not even like first generation, like I was born there, like, I'm an immigrant. And so migrating here and being able to just bring my ideas of like what other places are like as far as restaurants is also kind of cool because it's allowed me to showcase a little bit more of my culture, of our culture, through our restaurant. And I think it's definitely being accepted very well by a lot of guests. A lot of guests might find some things interesting, like the peanut soup we did, where like peanuts made into soup was something they've never thought about or even thought would work out, but it just does. And the fact that we added the crispy potatoes on top, Bolivia, I think as a country in America isn't really known. A lot of people don't know a lot about Bolivia. They'll think Peru, they'll think Brazil, they'll think Argentina, but they'll never think, what is your cuisine? What is Bolivia like? And so it's given me a platform to be able to kind of expand on that in a very unlikely scenario. In a city where you wouldn't think a lot of people would try Bolivian food, Oklahoma City, you might be thinking something like Virginia, where there's a lot of us, or New York, where there's a lot of us. So it's been fun. I also don't have a lot of competition here with Bolivian food, so I can't say that it's the best, but I'm telling you, it's the closest. It's the closest. It's the closest.
Well, for all of the other Bolivians I know that live in Oklahoma, we're always so nostalgic and so just reminisce so much about the food back there. And like Silvana was saying, it's very regional. It's a regional place. And when somebody asks me, like, so what's the main dish in Bolivia? I'm like, none. I don't know. Yeah. I don't even know. I'm from Cochabamba. I can tell you what is popular in the city there. But then if you go to La Paz, it's something else. If you go to Santa Cruz, it's something else. If you're in the south, Tarija, near the border of Argentina, it's going to be something different.
Yeah.
And so I'm just so happy that you guys are here. And I'm so happy that you guys joined us to talk about who you are and about your upcoming events with other restaurants. I know that Oklahoma, just by talking with other people and just by seeing all of the, on your social media, like the city is embracing your concept, and I only hope for the biggest success for you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you for having us here today.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun, allowing us, again, the time to rant and talk and present and explain. So we're very grateful for that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for spending
thank you
your
very
afternoon
much.
with us.
Absolutely.
Well, last time, how can people show you some love?
We're open Wednesdays through Sundays. Zach and myself are always there. If you don't see me there, it's probably because I'm at home with August, with our son and our dog Guinness. But I'm there in spirit. I'm always watching.
Always.
On my little camera. So I'm like, what is this person doing? No. But yeah, and then always feel free to say hi. I love people saying hi and just telling me what they think about the restaurant. I mean, it's really what's going to keep us going.
And I think you guys have an Instagram, so if you guys want to follow Sedalia's Oyster and Seafood,
it's Sedalia's OKC. If you guys add Sedalia's OKC is the Instagram. We have a website as well. If you're always, people will say, well, where can I find your menu? It's available online. If you're thinking of heading down that way and you're thinking, what do they have on the menu? Because Zach was saying it changes a ton, and so you can see what we have for the weekend. Be prepared for a lot of different sauces, preparations, exciting. It's an exciting experience. I oftentimes tell anybody that comes in there, I wish that I didn't work there because I could, just eat there. But it happens sometimes, like look out and I just come around.
I've heard fantastic things about the Focaccia.
Oh, the Focaccia, yes.
Yet to try it, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Come and try the Focaccia. That one is also a favorite of a lot of people. Yeah, that is Amaru's, our baker's baby. He's kind of worked on that. He's working on a new bread recipe, guys. So be on the lookout for the new.
There might be two to try soon.
Yeah, the new. Yeah. Honey, what about you? Anything? Favorite dishes?
Favorite dishes on the menu?
Yeah.
I mean,
all of them.
All of them. I guess.
Try them all, and we will.
No, it's just exciting to bring a lot of products in. It's the best when anybody tells us they've never had something, and it's here. It's always the best. People talk about that on a weekly basis that they've never had this and it was amazing, and we're bringing a lot of different things in just to mix it up. And that, I think that for me is always very special.
Nice. Well, go online, show Sedalia some love, follow them on Instagram. While you're out there, follow us as well, OKC Foodcast. Until next time, eat well and be happy.